Instructor Vexthor's secondary hearts nearly stopped when he saw the Raxian cub latch onto the human's boot. The xenobiology training facility had hosted 17 species over its 2-century operation, but humans had only joined the Galactic Coalition 3 cycles ago. They were still an unknown quantity, soft-skinned deathworlders from a planet that somehow spawned both nurturing mammals and apex predators in equal measure. The contradiction made most species nervous. "Cadet Morrison!" Vexthor's translator crackled with urgency as his chitinous plates flared in alarm. "Disengage immediately!" The young Raxian, barely past its first molt, had clamped its developing jaw around the human woman's reinforced boot. At only 6 weeks old, the cub already possessed enough bite force to crack battle armor. Its species hadn't evolved at the top of their world's food chain by being gentle. The translucent teeth, still soft but wickedly sharp, worked against the synthetic material with instinctive savagery. Cadet Sarah Morrison glanced down at the writhing ball of scales and fury attached to her foot. 23 other cadets from a dozen species froze in the training arena, their various appendages poised over emergency alert buttons. The Raxian cub's handler, a veteran named Crixtal, was already rushing forward, sedation equipment in 3 of his 6 hands. "Stand down," Sarah said calmly, not to the cub but to the panicking instructor. "Cadet, that creature's bite force will—" He's teething. The arena fell silent except for the small growls emanating from the cub as it gnawed with increasing frustration. Sarah crouched slowly, her movements deliberate and unthreatening. She'd grown up on a farm in Montana, and this wasn't her first rodeo with cranky babies, even if this particular baby would eventually grow to 3 meters and hunt in packs. "Look at his jaw movement," she said, her voice taking on a lecturing quality that made several cadets unconsciously lean forward. "He's not actually trying to bite through. See how he's working his teeth side to side? That's not an attack pattern. His gums are swollen, 3rd set of teeth coming in, if I remember the xenobiology brief correctly." Vexthor's translator struggled with the concept of teething for a moment before helpfully providing juvenile dental development discomfort. "That's a predator, Cadet Morrison," Vexthor managed, though his tone had shifted from alarm to bewilderment. "Not a whatever juvenile creatures you have on Earth. We call them babies," Sarah replied with a slight smile. She reached into her utility pocket and pulled out a piece of compressed protein ration. Standard issue, but she'd frozen it that morning. "And yeah, he's a predator. So were the wolves my grandfather rehabilitated. So are house cats. Doesn't mean they don't get uncomfortable when their teeth grow in." She offered the frozen ration to the cub. For a moment, the small Raxian didn't react, its primitive brain trying to process this strange, soft creature that smelled like prey but acted like pack. Then instinct won out over confusion. The cub released her boot and snatched the frozen protein, immediately beginning to gnaw on it with obvious relief. "Better?" Sarah murmured, scratching behind the ridge where the cub's auditory sensors were still developing. The Raxian made a sound somewhere between a purr and a growl, contentment mixed with the species' naturally aggressive vocalizations. Crixtal, the handler, slowly lowered his sedation equipment. His crest, which had been flared in preparation for emergency intervention, gradually settled. "In 15 years of handling Raxian cubs," he said slowly, "I have never seen one respond to non-species interaction without aggression protocols." "You probably never gave them something cold to chew on," Sarah said practically. "Pressure and cold helps with the pain. Works for puppies, works for human babies. Apparently works for baby murder lizards, too." Several translators struggled with murder lizards. The Centaurian cadet made a whistling sound that indicated either laughter or distress. With their species, it was often hard to tell. Vexthor approached cautiously, his compound eyes whirring as they focused on the scene. The cub was now sitting on Sarah's boot, apparently having decided the human was acceptable furniture, while working the frozen ration with obvious relief. "Your species continues to confound our predictive models," the instructor admitted. "You come from a world where everything tries to kill you, yet your first instinct with a predator species offspring is maternal care?" Sarah shrugged. "Humans didn't get to the top of our food chain by being the biggest or strongest. We got there by being persistent, adaptable, and," she gestured at the cub, "by understanding that sometimes the scariest things just need a little help. We domesticated wolves into dogs. We convinced cats to live with us. Some humans keep snakes as pets. We're really good at the whole befriend the predator thing. Your species' definition of pet is going to require its own diplomatic briefing, Vexthor muttered. The other cadets had begun to gather around, their initial fear replaced by curiosity. A Veltorian, all tentacles and bioluminescence, pulsed a question. Do all human young require this teething process? Yep, usually around 6 months old, sometimes earlier. They get fussy, bite everything, drool everywhere. Parents lose a lot of sleep. Sarah gently relocated the cub from her boot to the floor, where it continued working on the frozen ration. My mom kept frozen washcloths in the freezer for me and my brothers. Your species gives frozen fabric to offspring, Vexthor said flatly. Whatever works. Sarah stood, brushing off her uniform. The cub made a small protesting sound, and she dropped another frozen ration beside it. The principle's the same across species: discomfort, relief, comfort. You just have to pay attention. Krikstal made a gesture of respect with his primary arms. You have my gratitude, cadet, and my confusion. Your personnel file says you're specializing in xenodiplomatic security, not caretaking. Back home, those aren't that different. Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. Understanding what something needs, whether it's a teething cub or a nervous ambassador, that's the foundation of everything else. Besides, she glanced at the cub, now significantly calmer. Knowing how to handle the babies means you understand the species better. These little guys are going to be the next generation of Raxian leaders, right? The implication hung in the air. Several cadets exchanged glances. The humans had been coalition members for 3 cycles, barely any time at all on the galactic stage. Yet they were already thinking generations ahead. Vexthor made a note in his datapad. It would go in his report to Coalition Command, along with all the other peculiar human observations that were slowly rewriting xenopsychology textbooks. Human Cadet Morrison neutralized potential Raxian cub aggression incident using frozen nutrition supplement and what she termed common sense. Request evaluation of human childcare practices for potential application in xenobiological training protocols. Also request clarification on human-domestic relationship with species called cats. File indicates they are small predators that humans voluntarily cohabitate with for companionship. This seems unwise, but evidence suggests otherwise. The cub, teeth-soothed and dignity intact, eventually waddled back to its enclosure. Sarah Morrison returned to formation, her boots slightly dented but functional. Dismissed, Vexthor announced. As the cadets filed out, he noticed several of them clustering around the human, asking questions about Earth's fauna. He updated his report with one final note. Recommend increased human integration in xenobiological programs. Their approach to predator species is unconventional but effective. Also appears to make other species less nervous around them, which may prove valuable for diplomatic operations. In the enclosure, the Raxian cub curled up for a nap, still holding the frozen ration in its claws. In 6 months, it would be twice Sarah's size. In 2 years, it could tear through a bulkhead. But today, it was just a baby with sore gums, and a human had understood that. Sometimes the galaxy was smaller than it seemed.